He lost both arms, saving the alien princess, then woke with dragon claws instead. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Nathan Brooks never expected his routine shift as a maintenance technician aboard the interstellar diplomatic vessel Harmony's Hope to end with him bleeding out in a collapsing shuttle bay, both arms crushed beyond recognition beneath a 5-ton cargo container. But as he watched Princess Celera of the Valerian Empire stagger to safety, her silver skin gleaming with grateful tears, he found he had no regrets. After all, what was one human life compared to galactic peace? The accident happened during what should have been a standard diplomatic escort mission. The Valorians were an ancient and proud species, their empire spanning 12 star systems, their technology refined over millennia. They had approached the Galactic Council seeking human assistance with a peculiar problem, one that had stumped their greatest engineers for decades. Strange energy fluctuations in their royal transport systems had caused several near-catastrophic failures. The Council, recognizing an opportunity to showcase humanity's problem-solving abilities, had dispatched the Harmony's Hope with a full diplomatic contingent. Nathan had been in the shuttle bay performing a routine maintenance check on the magnetic coupling systems when the energy surge hit. The Valerian Royal Shuttle, docked in Bay 3, had released an electromagnetic pulse that rippled through the entire compartment. Cargo containers secured by magnetic locks suddenly became deadly projectiles. Most of the bay crew managed to dive for cover, but Princess Celera, who had been inspecting the bay as part of her official tour, stood frozen in shock as a massive container broke free from its moorings and tumbled directly toward her. Nathan didn't think. He simply moved. Years of emergency response training kicked in as he sprinted across the bay deck, his boots pounding against the metal grating. He reached the princess with barely a second to spare, shoving her sideways with all his strength. She tumbled clear, landing hard but safe against a support pillar. The container, however, found Nathan. The impact was devastating. He felt rather than heard the crunch as both his arms were caught between the falling container and an equipment rack. The pain was immediate and absolute, a white-hot agony that seemed to consume his entire existence. Emergency bulkheads slammed down. Klaxons wailed. Through a haze of pain, Nathan saw Princess Celera scrambling to her feet, her lavender eyes wide with horror. She was screaming something, her melodious voice distorted by shock, but Nathan couldn't make out the words. Medical teams in hazard suits rushed into the bay, their movements seeming to happen in slow motion. Someone was injecting something into his neck. The pain receded slightly, replaced by a floating sensation. The last thing Nathan remembered before consciousness fled was Princess Celera's face hovering above his, her silver hands pressed against his cheeks, her tears falling like liquid starlight onto his face. She was speaking in her native tongue, words he didn't understand, but her tone was unmistakable. She was making a promise. Then darkness claimed him, warm and complete. Nathan expected to wake up in the medical bay, probably fitted with prosthetic arms if he was lucky, or facing a medical discharge if he wasn't. What he didn't expect was to wake up in a chamber that looked like it had been carved from a single massive crystal. Soft blue light emanated from the walls themselves, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The air smelled of ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. He was lying on a bed that seemed to conform perfectly to his body, responding to his movements before he even made them. And his arms felt wrong. Not painful, not absent, just profoundly different. Nathan slowly, carefully, raised his right arm into his field of vision. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. His arm was no longer the pale-skinned, decidedly average human limb he'd lived with for 28 years. From shoulder to fingertip, his arm was covered in scales. Not rough reptilian scales, but something far more elegant. Each scale was the deep blue-black of space itself, edged with a faint luminescence that shifted through colors he didn't have names for. The scales overlapped in perfect geometric patterns, creating a surface that seemed simultaneously organic and technological. But it was his hand that truly shocked him. His fingers had been replaced by elegant talons, each one tapering to a wickedly sharp point. The talons were translucent, like polished obsidian, and they gleamed in the crystal chamber's light. As Nathan flexed his new fingers experimentally, he saw intricate patterns etched into each talon, flowing designs that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. When he made a fist, the talons retracted slightly into protective sheaths, the scales rearranging themselves seamlessly. Nathan sat up slowly, his head spinning. His left arm was identical to his right, a perfect mirror of impossible beauty and deadly grace. He touched his face gingerly with one taloned hand, half expecting to find it transformed as well, but his features felt normal. Whatever had been done to him had been limited to his arms. He stood on shaky legs and discovered a full-length mirror mounted on the far wall. The reflection showed a strange hybrid, a thoroughly human man with the arms of something ancient and powerful. The chamber door dissolved, revealing Princess Celera. She wore robes of deep purple trimmed with silver, and her expression was a mixture of hope and apprehension. Behind her stood several Valerian attendants, their silver skin gleaming, their eyes fixed on Nathan with barely concealed curiosity. "Nathan," she said, her voice carrying that melodious quality that made human speech sound harsh by comparison. "You are awake." "We were not certain the integration would be successful." "Integration," Nathan repeated, his voice rough from disuse. "Princess, what did you do to me?" Celera stepped into the chamber, her attendants remaining respectfully outside. She moved with a grace that made Nathan feel clumsy by comparison, though he noticed she limped slightly, probably from when he had pushed her out of danger. She came to stand before him, and Nathan realized she was tall for her species, nearly matching his 6-foot height. "I saved your life," she said simply, "just as you saved mine. Your human medical technology could not repair the damage to your arms. The crushing was too complete, too catastrophic. Your own doctors told me you would live, but you would never have function in those limbs again. I could not accept that, not when you had sacrificed them for me." Nathan looked down at his transformed arms, flexing the talons slowly. "They're incredible," he admitted. "But what are they? What did you do?" Celera gestured to a bench that seemed to grow from the floor itself, and they both sat. She folded her hands in her lap, her expression serious. "My people, the Valorians, we are not just another spacefaring species, Nathan. We are old, far older than your human history suspect, and we have had dealings with beings that most sentient species consider mere mythology. Dragons," Nathan said flatly. Celera's eyes widened slightly. "You know of them?" "Stories," Nathan replied. "Myths from Earth. Creatures of incredible power, beings of magic and might. But they're not real. They're just tales we told ourselves before we understood the universe." The princess shook her head slowly. "They are real, Nathan, or they were. The dragons were the first truly ancient species, beings who existed before most of the current galactic civilizations rose to power. They did not think like we do. They did not build empires or form councils. They simply were, existing in harmony with the fundamental forces of the universe itself. My people, in our early days, encountered them. We learned from them. And in rare cases, when a Valerian proved themselves worthy, the dragons would grant a gift." She reached out slowly, asking permission with her eyes. Nathan nodded, and she gently took his transformed hand in both of hers. Her touch was warm despite her silver skin. She turned his hand over, studying the patterns etched into his talons. "These are not prosthetics, Nathan. They are not machines or biological constructs. They are a gift from the last living dragon, a being named Theraxis who has dwelt in the heart of our home world for 10,000 years. When I told him what you had done, when I explained that a human had sacrificed his own body to save me without hesitation, without thought of reward, he was moved. Dragons respect courage above all things, and sacrifice even more so." Nathan felt a strange tingling in his arms, as if they were responding to the mention of the dragon's name. "So these are dragon parts? You grafted dragon arms onto me." "Not grafted," Celera corrected. "Transformed. Theraxis gave of his own essence, his own power. Your arms were healed completely, restructured at the molecular level. They are still your arms, Nathan. Your nerves, your muscles, your bones. But they have been enhanced, transmuted into something greater. You have the strength of a dragon in those limbs, the durability, the power. And you have abilities that you have not yet discovered. Before Nathan could respond, one of the attendants outside made a gesture. Celera nodded and stood. There is much more to explain, but first, you must be hungry. And there are others who wish to meet you. Will you come with me? Nathan stood as well, his new arms feeling both alien and natural. The talons made soft clicking sounds as he flexed them nervously. Do I have a choice? Solara's expression softened. Always. You are not a prisoner here, Nathan Brooks. You are a hero, and you are my honored guest. If you wish to return to your ship, to your people, that can be arranged. But I hope you will stay, at least for a while. There is much you need to learn about your new gifts, and much I would like to show you of my world. Nathan considered. His family back on Earth would be worried, and his friends aboard the Harmony's Hope were probably going crazy wondering what had happened to him. But curiosity won out over caution. He had dragon claws for hands. How could he possibly walk away without learning more? Okay, he said. I'll stay. But I need to send a message to my ship. Let them know I'm alive. Already done, Celera assured him. Your Captain Clark has been informed of your condition and your location. She was quite insistent about speaking with you personally once you recovered. We have arranged a communication link for later today, if you feel up to it. Nathan nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and anxiety. Lead the way, Princess. The world beyond the crystal chamber was breathtaking. Celera led Nathan through corridors of polished stone that seemed to shift colors as they passed, responding to their presence. They emerged onto a balcony that overlooked a city unlike anything Nathan had ever seen. Towers of crystal and metal reached toward a sky that shimmered with 3 moons, each a different hue. Bridges of light connected the towers, and vehicles that seemed to float on currents of pure energy drifted between structures. In the distance, mountains rose like jagged teeth, their peaks wreathed in clouds that glowed with bioluminescent colors. This is Valoreth, the capital of our empire, Celera said, pride evident in her voice. We have built this over the course of 8,000 years, each generation adding to the beauty and complexity. And there, she pointed to the largest mountain in the distance, its peaks split as if by a great axe. That is where Thraxis dwells. The dragon's throne, we call it. Nathan leaned against the balcony railing, his talons clicking softly against the metal. It's beautiful, he said honestly. Nothing like Earth, but beautiful in its own way. I would like to see your Earth someday, Celera said softly. I have read much about it in our databases. A world of such diversity, such contradictions. Oceans and deserts, ice and fire, all on one planet. And your people, so young compared to most species, yet already reaching for the stars with such determination. We're stubborn, Nathan agreed with a slight smile. It's kind of our thing. They were interrupted by the arrival of a Valerian male, his silver skin marked with intricate tattoos that denoted rank. He bowed to Celera, then studied Nathan with barely concealed fascination. Princess, the council awaits. They wish to meet the human who bears the dragon's gift. Celera sighed. So soon? I had hoped to give Nathan more time to adjust. It's okay, Nathan said, straightening. Might as well get it over with. What exactly is this council? The governing body of my people, Celera explained as they began walking again, following the tattooed Valerian through more corridors. 12 members, each representing one of our 12 star systems. They make decisions regarding our empire's policies, our treaties, our future, and they are very interested in you, Nathan. The dragon has not granted his gift to anyone in over 2,000 years. The fact that he gave it to a human is significant. No pressure, Nathan muttered. The council chamber was massive, a circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed the stars themselves, somehow visible despite being deep inside the palace structure. 12 thrones arranged in a circle, each one occupied by a Valerian who radiated authority and age. Their skin tones varied from pure silver to darker gunmetal gray, and each wore robes that indicated their home system. At the center of the circle, 2 smaller chairs had been placed. Princess Celera took one seat with practiced grace. Nathan took the other, acutely aware of how every eye in the room was fixed on his transformed arms. He resisted the urge to hide them behind his back and instead rested them on the arms of the chair, letting the council see them clearly. An elderly Valerian, his skin almost white with age, spoke first. Nathan Brooks of Earth. You have been granted a gift that we ourselves have not received in millennia. How does this make you feel? Nathan considered the question carefully. Honestly, confused, grateful, and a little scared. I didn't save the princess expecting any reward. I just did what anyone should do when someone's in danger. A female council member with intricate silver markings spoke next. Not anyone would have acted as you did. Our own security personnel were closer, yet they hesitated. You did not. Why? Nathan shrugged. I didn't think about it. There wasn't time to think. I just saw someone in danger and moved. That's how we're trained in emergency response. Another council member leaned forward. You say you were trained for this. Is it common among humans to risk death for strangers? Nathan thought about all the firefighters, police officers, soldiers, and ordinary people he'd heard about who had done exactly that. Yeah, he said. It's pretty common. We have a saying on Earth. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Most humans believe that if they can help, they should, even if it's dangerous. The council members exchanged glances, and Nathan got the sense they were communicating telepathically. Finally, the elderly Valerian spoke again. The dragon Thraxus has told us that your species possesses something rare in the galaxy. A willingness to sacrifice for others without expectation of reciprocity. He believes humans may be the spiritual successors to the dragons themselves, beings who act not from calculation, but from intrinsic nobility. Do you agree with this assessment? Nathan almost laughed, but caught himself. With respect, council members, I think Thraxus might be overestimating us. Humans can be noble, sure, but we can also be petty, selfish, and downright cruel. We're a mixed bag. I didn't save Princess Celera because I'm some kind of saint. I did it because it needed doing, and I was there. That's all. Yet you were the dragon's gift, another council member noted. That alone suggests you are more than you claim. Or maybe, Nathan replied, meeting the Valorian's gaze steadily. It suggests that doing the right thing when it counts is enough. You don't have to be perfect to be good. The council chamber fell silent. Then, to Nathan's surprise, the elderly Valerian smiled. A rare expression that transformed his severe features. Thraxus chose well. You have wisdom to match your courage, Nathan Brooks. We welcome you to Valoreth, and we grant you the freedom of our world. Learn what you can of your new gifts. And when you return to your people, carry our respect with you. The formal audience concluded, and Celera led Nathan from the chamber. As soon as they were alone in the corridor, she let out a long breath. That went better than I feared. The council can be quite intimidating when they choose to be. They weren't so bad, Nathan said. Intense, sure, but not hostile. Though I'm still not sure I believe this dragon gave me these arms just because I did the right thing. Celera stopped walking and turned to face him. Nathan, you must understand something about dragons. They do not see the universe as we do. To them, actions matter more than words, character more than achievement. You proved your character in that shuttle bay. Everything else is just details. Over the following days, Nathan began to discover just what his new arms could do. Celera assigned him a trainer, a Valerian warrior named Kelver, who had studied ancient dragon lore for most of his 200-year life. Kelver was patient but demanding, pushing Nathan to explore the limits of his transformation. The first test was simple strength. Kelver brought Nathan to a training yard and presented him with a series of increasingly heavy weights. Nathan lifted them easily, his dragon arms showing no strain even when the weights reached several hundred pounds. The scales seemed to shimmer with each exertion, distributing the load perfectly across his transformed limbs. Impressive, Kelver noted, making marks on a data pad. But strength alone is not the dragon's true gift. Try to break this. He handed Nathan a rod of some metallic substance. It looked ordinary enough. Nathan gripped it with both hands and pulled. The rod resisted for a moment, then shattered like glass, fragments scattering across the training yard floor. That rod, Kelver said calmly, is made of reinforced titanium alloy. It would require hydraulic pressure of over 10,000 pounds per square inch to break. You did it with your bare hands. Nathan stared at his talons, watching the light play across their translucent surfaces. What else can these do? Kelver smiled. Let us find out. Over the next week, Nathan discovered abilities he never could have imagined. His talons could extend or retract at will, growing up to 6 inches longer when he needed reach or withdrawing completely into his fingertips when he wanted to handle delicate objects. The scales could harden to become nearly impervious to damage or soften to allow complete flexibility. He could climb sheer walls by extending his talons and digging into stone, and he could swim with surprising speed by using his arms like fins, the scales adjusting their configuration to maximize efficiency. But the most remarkable discovery came during a meditation session Kelver insisted on. "Sit," the trainer commanded, gesturing to a mat in the center of the training yard. "Clear your mind. Listen to your arms." "Listen to my arms?" Nathan repeated skeptically. "The dragon's gift is not merely physical," Kelver explained. "It carries a fragment of Thraxis's essence. If you quiet yourself, you may hear it speak." Nathan sat cross-legged on the mat, feeling ridiculous. He closed his eyes and tried to empty his thoughts, focusing on the sensation of his transformed arms. At first, there was nothing. Then, gradually, he became aware of a warmth spreading from his shoulders down through his arms to his fingertips. The warmth intensified, becoming almost uncomfortably hot. And then he heard it. Not a voice exactly, but a presence. Ancient, powerful, patient. Images flooded Nathan's mind. He saw worlds burning and being born. He saw civilizations rising and falling like waves on a beach. He saw the first Valorians meeting the first dragons, two species recognizing kindred spirits across the void of space. He saw wars fought and peace brokered, saw art created and knowledge shared. And he saw himself, a tiny figure in the vast sweep of cosmic history, yet significant. A bridge between old and new, between dragon and human. The vision faded, leaving Nathan gasping. His arms glowed with inner light, the scales radiating colors that shifted through the spectrum. Kelver was staring at him with something approaching awe. "You have connected," the trainer whispered. "The dragon has acknowledged you fully. This is unprecedented for one who has borne the gift for such a short time." Nathan looked down at his glowing arms. "What does it mean?" "It means," a new voice said, "that you are ready for the next step." They both turned to see Princess Celera approaching, accompanied by a figure that made Nathan's breath catch. The being was tall, easily 8 feet, and moved with a fluid grace that seemed to defy physics. Their skin shimmered like oil on water, reflecting rainbow hues with every motion. Their eyes were pure gold, lacking pupils or whites, and they radiated an aura of power that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "Nathan Brooks," Celera said formally, "may I present Thraxis, the last dragon." Nathan scrambled to his feet, unsure of the proper protocol for meeting an ancient dragon in humanoid form. He settled for a respectful bow. "Thank you," he said simply, "for saving my life. For these gifts." Thraxis studied him with those golden eyes, and Nathan felt as if every secret he'd ever kept was being laid bare. When the dragons spoke, their voice resonated in Nathan's chest like a tuning fork. "You saved the daughter of my friends without thought for yourself. You demonstrated the quality I value most in any sentient being. Selfless courage. Your thanks are appreciated but unnecessary. I acted as I felt appropriate." The dragon moved closer, reaching out one shimmering hand. "May I?" Nathan extended his transformed arm. Thraxis grasped it gently, and Nathan felt that warmth again, the connection to something vast and timeless. The dragon's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "You have adapted well," Thraxis observed. "Better than any who came before. The gift has found a worthy home. But you are troubled. Speak freely. What concerns you?" Nathan hesitated, then decided honesty was the only option with a being who could probably read his thoughts anyway. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this," he admitted. "I'm just a maintenance tech. I fix things. I'm not a warrior or a diplomat or anything special. And now I have these incredible powers, and I don't know what they're for." Thraxis released his arm and stepped back. "You are asking for purpose. This is a good question. The answer is simple. The gifts are yours to use as you see fit. You may return to your maintenance work if that brings you fulfillment. You may become a warrior if that calls to you. You may do nothing at all. The dragon's gift comes with no obligations, no debts to repay. It simply is." "But surely there's a reason," Nathan persisted. "You don't give power like this randomly." The dragon's expression, inhuman as it was, seemed almost amused. "You assume I have grand plans. I do not. I am old, Nathan Brooks. So old that your entire species' existence is but a brief moment to me. In my long years, I have learned that the universe has its own plans, its own patterns. I simply act when I feel moved to act. You moved me. The rest is up to you. Thraxis turned to leave, then paused. However, if you seek a purpose, perhaps consider this. Your species is young and often underestimated by others in the galactic community. You have been given proof that humans are worthy of respect, worthy of being taken seriously. How you choose to use that proof will shape how others see your kind for generations to come. No pressure, of course. The dragon's form shimmered and then dissolved into motes of golden light that drifted upward and vanished. Nathan stood staring at the empty space, his mind racing. No pressure, he muttered. Right. Celera laughed softly. Thraxis has a peculiar sense of humor. But the point stands, Nathan. You represent humanity now in a way few others do. The Council, the other species who have heard of what happened, they all are watching to see what you will do. What I'm going to do, Nathan said firmly, is talk to my captain. I need to know what's happening with the Harmony's Hope, what the status is of the mission. Then I'll figure out the rest. The communication with Captain Clark was both reassuring and complicating. The captain appeared on the hollow display in Solara's private chambers, her dark skin and graying hair a welcome sight after days surrounded by silver-skinned Valorians. Nathan, she said, relief evident in her voice. It's good to see you alive and apparently well. Though the reports of your transformation were a bit hard to believe until now. She was staring at his arms, clearly visible in the hollow feed. Nathan flexed his talons self-consciously. Yeah, it's been a weird week. How are things on the ship? Complicated, Clark admitted. The diplomatic mission is actually going better than expected. The Valorians shared their technical data on the energy fluctuations, and our engineers have identified the problem. Turns out it's a quantum resonance issue that the Valorian tech was too refined to detect. Sometimes older, more basic instruments can spot things fancy ones miss. We're implementing fixes now. That's great, Nathan said. So the mission is a success? Diplomatically, yes, Clark replied. But politically, things are getting interesting. Word has spread about what happened to you. About the dragon's gift. We're getting inquiries from a dozen different species wanting to know more about humans, about our culture, our values. The Galactic Council has formally requested that Earth send a full delegation to their next assembly. Nathan, you've made humanity very interesting to a lot of very powerful beings. I just pushed someone out of the way of a falling container, Nathan protested. You sacrificed your body to save an alien princess, Clark corrected. And you were rewarded with legendary power for it. That's the kind of story that spreads. The kind that changes perceptions. Half the species in the galaxy now see humans as noble and selfless. The other half sees us as dangerously unpredictable. Which half is right? Nathan asked. Clark smiled. Probably both. Look, Nathan, I can't order you to do anything. You're technically on medical leave, and what the Valorians did to you definitely qualifies as a life-changing medical procedure. If you want to come back to the ship, resign your commission, and live quietly somewhere, that's your right. But if you're asking my opinion as your captain and as someone who cares about humanity's place in the galaxy, I think you should stay on Valoreth for a while longer. Learn everything you can about your new abilities. Build relationships with the Valorians and with this dragon. Show the galaxy that humans can be trusted with power. Nathan nodded slowly. That's what I was thinking too. But Captain, I need to know my family is okay. My parents, they must be worried sick. I've been in contact with them, Clark assured him. They know you're alive and recovering. They're proud of you, Nathan. Your father told me to tell you that you're grounded for life for scaring them like that, but he was grinning when he said it. Nathan felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thank you, Captain, for everything. Thank you, Nathan, for making us all look good. Clark out. The hollow display faded, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts. Celera had tactfully excused herself during the communication, giving him privacy. Now he stood on the balcony of her chambers, looking out over the glittering city of Valoreth. His dragon arms rested on the railing, the scales catching the light of the 3 moons. He heard Celera return, her footsteps soft on the crystal floor. Without turning, he asked, "Why did you do it? I know you said it was to repay me for saving your life, but there must have been other options. Medical tech, Prosthetics, something less drastic than asking a dragon to transform me. Celera came to stand beside him, her own hands resting near his on the railing. Because I saw something in you in that moment, Nathan. When you pushed me clear, when the container fell on you, I saw your face. You weren't afraid. You weren't angry. You were satisfied. Like you had done exactly what you were meant to do. That kind of selflessness is rare anywhere, but among a species as young as humans, it suggested something remarkable. She turned to look at him, her lavender eyes serious. My people have existed for thousands of years, Nathan. We have achieved wonders of technology and culture. But we have also become cautious, calculated. We rarely act without considering every consequence, weighing every outcome. We have lost something that dragons once had, and that I see in humans. The willingness to act from the heart rather than the head. When I asked Thraxis to save you, it was not just repayment. It was investment. In you, in humanity, in the hope that your species might help the galaxy remember what it means to be truly brave. Nathan absorbed this, watching a vehicle drift past below them, its passengers clearly visible through transparent walls. You know, he said softly, you're putting a lot of faith in one maintenance tech who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, Celera replied with a slight smile. Perspective matters. But I do not think it was entirely chance, Nathan. Thraxis does not believe in pure coincidence. Neither do I. You were meant to be there. You were meant to save me. And you were meant to receive the dragon's gift. What you do with it, that is your choice. But I hope you will let me help you figure it out. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights shimmer and dance. Finally, Nathan spoke. Okay, I'll stay. I'll learn everything I can about these arms and what they can do. And then we'll see where the universe takes me. Excellent, Celera said. Because tomorrow, we begin your real training. Kelver has been gentle with you so far. Now the work truly starts. Nathan groaned. You're enjoying this way too much. Perhaps a little, Celera admitted, her smile widening. The training intensified dramatically. Kelver introduced Nathan to Valerian combat techniques, ancient martial arts developed in the age when dragons still walked freely among the stars. The movements were fluid and precise, emphasizing economy of motion and devastating efficiency. Nathan's dragon arms gave him advantages his human body struggled to keep up with. More than once, he found himself face down on the training mat, his human legs having failed to match the speed his transformed arms enabled. You rely too much on your gifts, Kelver criticized after Nathan's fifth fall in an hour. The dragon's power is meaningless if the rest of you cannot keep pace. We must strengthen your human parts to match your dragon parts. Thus began a grueling regimen of physical conditioning, running through the mountain paths around the palace, swimming in pools that simulated everything from calm lakes to raging rivers, climbing walls without using his talents, forcing his human muscles to develop strength and endurance. Nathan had thought himself in decent shape from his work on the Harmony's Hope, but Valerian training standards were on another level entirely. Yet despite the physical exhaustion, Nathan found himself enjoying the process. There was something meditative about pushing his body to its limits, about discovering what he was capable of when he refused to quit. And Kelver, stern as he was, proved to be an excellent teacher. He understood human physiology well enough to know when to push and when to allow rest. And he never demanded more than Nathan could give. The breakthrough came 3 weeks into the training. Nathan was sparring with Kelver using practice weapons, blunted swords that would bruise but not cut. The Valerian was faster, more experienced, and had been beating Nathan soundly for days. But this time, something clicked. Nathan stopped thinking about the dragon arms as separate from the rest of him. He stopped trying to compensate for them, and instead integrated them fully into his fighting style. When Kelver attacked, Nathan didn't just block. He flowed with the strike, using one dragon arm to deflect while pivoting on legs that suddenly seemed to know exactly where to be. His other arm came around in a counter-strike that Kelver barely managed to parry. The trainer's eyes widened in surprise, and Nathan pressed his advantage. For the first time since training began, he drove Kelver back, his attacks a seamless blend of human agility and dragon power. The match ended with Nathan's practice blade against Kelver's throat. Both combatants were breathing hard, sweat dripping from their faces. Then Kelver smiled. a genuine expression of pride. Now you understand. You are not a human with dragon arms. You are something new, something whole. Nathan lowered his weapon, his own smile matching his teacher's. Yeah, I get it now. That evening, Celera hosted a small celebration in Nathan's honor. The guest list was deliberately limited, just the princess, Kelver, a few palace officials, and Nathan himself. They gathered in a garden that seemed impossibly beautiful, with plants that bioluminesced in patterns that changed with the music being played by Valerian musicians. Celera raised a glass of something that sparkled like liquid stars. To Nathan Brooks, she announced, who came to us as a maintenance technician and leaves us as a warrior. I'm not leaving, Nathan pointed out, but he raised his own glass in response. The drink was sweet and slightly effervescent, with an aftertaste that reminded him of strawberries. Not yet, Celera agreed. But your captain will eventually require your return, and Earth will want to see their hero. Enjoy tonight, Nathan. You have earned it. The celebration was pleasant, filled with conversation and laughter. Nathan found himself telling stories about Earth, about human history and culture, and the Valorians listened with genuine interest. In turn, they shared tales of their own history, of the age when dragons were common and the stars were young. Nathan learned that Valerian civilization had nearly destroyed itself twice, once through war and once through environmental catastrophe, and both times it was dragon intervention that had pulled them back from the brink. Dragons do not save civilizations lightly, one of the officials explained. They only intervene when they see potential for growth, for learning. They saved us because they believed we could become better than we were. And we did. We rebuilt our world, our culture, our values. Everything we are now, we owe in part to their faith in us. And now a dragon has shown faith in humanity, Nathan said quietly. Through me. The official nodded. Indeed. The question now is whether your species will prove worthy of that faith. As the celebration wound down and guests began to depart, Celera pulled Nathan aside. Walk with me, she requested. They left the garden and made their way to a tower that rose above the palace proper. The climb was long, but neither of them minded. At the top, they emerged onto a platform that offered a view of the entire city and the mountains beyond. The night sky was ablaze with stars, far more visible than from Earth thanks to Valoretha's minimal light pollution despite the advanced civilization. I wanted to show you this, Celera said, gesturing to the vista. This is what we fight to protect. Not just the buildings or the technology, but the beauty, the potential, the hope. Every Valerian child who will grow up in this city, every artist who will create something new, every scientist who will make a discovery, they all depend on people like you and me being willing to sacrifice when necessary. I'm beginning to understand why the dragon chose to save me, Nathan replied. It wasn't really about me at all. It was about what I represent. The idea that some things are worth dying for, worth sacrificing for. Celera nodded. But also worth living for, Nathan. The dragon did not give you those arms so you could throw your life away. He gave them to you so you could protect life. Yours and others. They stood in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Nathan asked, what happens now? I can't stay here forever, as much as I'm enjoying the training and the company. Earth needs to know what I've learned, and I need to figure out how to fit back into human society looking like this. Celera considered. I have a proposal. In 2 months, the Galactic Council convenes for their quarterly session. Earth has been invited to send a delegation, as Captain Clark mentioned. What if you accompanied them? You could represent both Earth and Valoreth, a living symbol of cooperation between our peoples. And you could demonstrate to the entire galaxy that humans are worthy of respect. Me? A diplomat? Nathan laughed. Princess, I barely graduated from technical school. I'm not qualified to represent anyone at a galactic level. You are more qualified than you think, Celera countered. You have courage, integrity, and now power. The Council respects those qualities. And you would not be alone. I would accompany you as the Valerian representative. Together, we could show what is possible when species work together rather than in isolation. Nathan thought about it. The idea terrified him, but it also excited him. A chance to actually make a difference on a scale he'd never imagined. A chance to help shape humanity's future among the stars. How could he say no to that? Okay, he agreed. I'll do it. But you have to promise me something. Anything, Celera said. If I make a complete fool of myself, you have to promise not to laugh. At least not where anyone can see. Solara's laugh was like music. I promise. Though I suspect you will surprise yourself with how capable you are. The next 2 months passed in a blur of activity. Nathan continued his training with Kelver, but now with a specific goal in mind. He needed to be able to defend himself and others if necessary, to project strength without aggression. He learned the subtle art of Valerian diplomacy from Solara, understanding that sometimes what was left unsaid mattered more than words. He studied the other species that made up the Galactic Council, learning their cultures, their values, their potential biases. And he practiced controlling his dragon arms with ever-increasing precision. By the end of the 2 months, he could write with a pen using his talons, could pick up an egg without cracking it, could extend a single talon to press a button while keeping the others retracted. He could also punch through a 6-inch steel plate and climb a perfectly smooth wall. The range of what he could do was staggering. Communication with Earth became more regular. His parents were adjusting to having a son who was half dragon, though his mother kept asking when he would come visit and bring this nice princess he kept mentioning. Captain Clark reported that the Harmony's hope was due to return to Earth within the month, having successfully completed its mission and forged a strong alliance with the Valerian Empire. And Nathan's old friends from the ship sent messages ranging from awe to playful jealousy at his transformation. One message stood out. It was from Marcus, a fellow maintenance tech who Nathan had worked with for 3 years. Dude, the message read, you've got dragon claws and you're dating a princess. Living every nerd's dream. But seriously, we're all proud of you. You did good. Come back and visit sometime. The ship isn't the same without you complaining about the coffee. Nathan recorded a response, grinning despite himself. Not dating the princess, Marcus. And the coffee here is even worse. Miss you too, buddy. Finally, the day came to depart for the Galactic Council station. Solara had arranged transport on a Valerian diplomatic vessel, a ship that made the Harmony's hope look like a rust bucket by comparison. The vessel was all flowing curves and shimmering surfaces, powered by technology Nathan couldn't begin to understand. The journey would take 4 days, time that Solara insisted they use for final preparations. She drilled Nathan on proper council protocols, on how to address different species, on the subtle signals that indicated interest, boredom, agreement, or hostility among the various delegates. But she also made sure he understood something crucial. Do not try to be something you are not, she advised. The council will see through any pretense. Be yourself, Nathan. Be the human who sacrificed himself for another without hesitation. That authenticity is your greatest strength. The Galactic Council station was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure that orbited a neutron star, drawing power from its immense gravitational field. The station housed thousands of beings from dozens of species, all working toward the theoretical goal of peaceful cooperation among the stars. In practice, Nathan learned, the council was more a forum for negotiation and compromise than actual governance, but it still held immense influence. Nathan and Solara were given quarters in the diplomatic wing, separate rooms, but connected by a shared common area. The accommodations were luxurious by any standard, but Nathan barely noticed. He was too busy trying not to panic about the formal session scheduled for the next day. That evening, Solara found him pacing in the common area, his dragon arms flexing nervously. Relax, she said gently. You will do fine. Easy for you to say, Nathan replied. You've been doing this your whole life. I fix air conditioning units. And now you will fix misconceptions about humanity, Solara countered. Same principle, different application. Despite her reassurance, Nathan slept poorly. His dreams were filled with images of standing before the council and freezing, unable to speak, while representatives from across the galaxy laughed at the presumptuous human who thought he belonged among them. The reality was somehow both better and worse than his nightmares. The council chamber was enormous, a spherical room with seats arrayed in tiers all around. At the center was a platform where speakers stood, visible to all. Nathan and Solara entered together, and Nathan felt hundreds of eyes from dozens of species turn to regard them. The attention was overwhelming. But then he noticed something. Many of those eyes held curiosity, not hostility. Some held respect, and a few held what looked almost like hope. These beings had heard the story of the human with dragon claws. They wanted to see if the reality matched the legend. Nathan straightened his spine and walked with Celera to their assigned seats. His dragon arms caught the light, scales shimmering, talons gleaming. He made no effort to hide them. Let them look. Let them see what humanity had earned through simple decency. The session began with routine business, reports from various committees, updates on treaties and trade agreements. Nathan listened, trying to absorb the dizzying complexity of galactic politics. Then the council chair, a being that looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree, announced the item Nathan had been dreading. We will now hear from the Valerian delegation regarding the incident aboard the vessel Harmony's Hope and its aftermath. Celera stood, and Nathan stood with her. Together, they moved to the central platform. Celera spoke first, her voice clear and carrying despite the chamber's size. She described the accident, Nathan's sacrifice, and Thraxis's decision to grant him the dragon's gift. She spoke of what this meant for Valerian-human relations, of the potential for deeper cooperation between their peoples. Then it was Nathan's turn. He had prepared remarks, carefully vetted by Celera and her advisors. But as he looked around the chamber, at the sea of alien faces watching him, he made a decision. He set aside his prepared speech. Members of the council, he began, his voice steadier than he expected. I'm Nathan Brooks, and until a couple months ago, I was a maintenance technician. I fixed things that broke. I kept systems running. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was important and I was good at it. I never expected to stand before you. I never expected to have these. He raised his dragon arms, letting the light play across the scales. But here I am, and I want you to understand something about humans. We're new to the galactic community. We're still learning how all of this works. We make mistakes. We're often too bold, too curious, too stubborn for our own good. But we have one quality that I think matters more than advanced technology or ancient wisdom. When we see someone in trouble, we help. We don't calculate the odds first. We don't worry about whether they're the right species or the right color or from the right planet. We just help. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I didn't save Princess Celera because I'm a hero. I saved her because she needed saving and I could do something about it. That's all. Any other human in that shuttle bay would have done the same thing. It's just who we are. And maybe that seems naive to species that have been navigating galactic politics for thousands of years. Maybe it seems stupid to risk yourself for someone you just met. But I think the dragon Thraxis understood something important. The galaxy needs a little more naive stupidity. It needs people willing to act from their hearts instead of just their heads. Nathan looked directly at the council chair. You're deciding right now how to view humanity. Are we worthy partners? Are we dangerous wildcards? Are we children playing with tools we don't understand? I can't answer those questions for you. All I can do is stand here and show you what one human looks like. What one human chose to do. And hope that's enough. He sat down, his heart pounding. Celera gave him a small nod of approval. Around the chamber, delegates were conferring among themselves in dozens of languages. Nathan had no idea how his speech had been received. The council chair raised a tentacle appendage for silence. Nathan Brooks of Earth, the chair said. Its voice translated through technology Nathan wore in his ear. You speak with refreshing honesty. The council appreciates this. We would hear from other delegates their views on humanity's application for full membership in this body. What followed was 2 hours of debate. Some species spoke strongly in favor of humanity, citing the Valerian alliance and Nathan's actions as evidence of human worthiness. Others expressed reservations, pointing to humanity's violent history and aggressive expansion into space. A few remained neutral, arguing that more time and evidence were needed. Through it all, Nathan sat quietly, letting the debate wash over him. Celera occasionally whispered translations of nuances the technology missed. Finally, the chair called for a vote. The measure before this council is whether to grant humanity provisional membership, with full membership to be considered again in 5 standard years. All in favor, indicate now. Lights appeared around the chamber as delegates voted. Nathan watched the tally with his breath held. The vote was close, but when the final count appeared, it showed a majority in favor. Humanity had been accepted. The chamber erupted in a mixture of applause, chittering, whistling, and other expressions of approval from various species. Nathan felt Celera grip his arm, her own expression joyful. "We did it," she whispered. "Humanity is truly part of the galactic community now." Nathan should have felt elated. He had just witnessed a pivotal moment in human history. But instead, he felt the weight of responsibility settling onto his shoulders. This was just the beginning. Now came the hard part, proving that the council had made the right choice. Over the following days, Nathan found himself the center of attention among the delegates. Species that had voted for humanity wanted to meet him, to shake his taloned hand, to hear his story directly. Even some who had voted against approached, expressing hope that humanity would prove their doubts wrong. One encounter stood out. A delegate from the Creathian Dominion, a species known for their military prowess and strict hierarchical culture, approached Nathan in one of the station's gardens. The Creathian was massive, easily 7 feet tall and built like a tank, with armor plating that seemed to be part of their natural biology. "Human Nathan," the Creathian said, their voice like gravel in a blender. "I voted against your species admission. I believe you should know why." Nathan straightened, but kept his posture non-threatening. "I appreciate your honesty. Please, tell me." "Humans are warriors," the Creathian stated. "This is clear from your history. But you are undisciplined warriors, fighting without proper structure or chain of command. You rush into danger like the young and foolish. This concerns me." "With respect," Nathan replied carefully, "humans fight when we have to, but we prefer peace. And we're not undisciplined. We just think for ourselves rather than blindly following orders." The Creathian made a sound that might have been amusement. "This is what concerns me. Warriors who think for themselves are unpredictable. But," the Creathian continued, "warriors who sacrifice themselves for others without hesitation are also admirable. You confuse me, human. Your species confuses me." "Good," Nathan said with a slight smile. "Predictability is boring. If we confused you enough to make you think, then maybe we're doing something right." The Creathian studied him for a long moment, then extended a massive hand. "I hope your species proves worthy of the dragon's gift, Nathan Brooks. I truly do. Because if you are half as courageous as you are bold, you will be valuable allies indeed." Nathan shook the offered hand, his dragon talons meeting Creathian armor with a soft click. "We'll do our best not to let you down." As word of humanity's acceptance spread, Nathan received a communication from Earth. The message was from the Secretary General of the United Earth Government, a position created just 5 years earlier when humanity had first made contact with alien civilizations. "Mr. Brooks," the Secretary General said from the holo display, "on behalf of all humanity, I want to thank you for your service and your sacrifice. You have opened doors for our species that we could not have opened ourselves. The Council has invited Earth to send a permanent delegation to the station. We would be honored if you would serve as part of that delegation." Nathan sat back, stunned. "Me? Mr. Secretary General, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not even sure I should be here." The Secretary General smiled. "Mr. Brooks, you just convinced the Galactic Council to accept humanity as members. You did it by being yourself, by speaking honestly and from the heart. That is exactly the kind of representation we need. You don't have to decide right now. Think about it. But know that Earth would be proud to have you as our voice among the stars." The communication ended, leaving Nathan staring at the blank screen. Celera, who had been present for the call, spoke softly. "What will you tell them?" "I don't know," Nathan admitted. "Part of me wants to say yes. This is important work, and I want to help. But another part of me just wants to go home, see my family, maybe go back to fixing things where the consequences of a mistake aren't galactic in scale." "You could do both," Celera suggested. "Serve for a few years, then return to Earth. Or split your time between here and home. The Council only meets 4 times a year. The rest of the time, you could be wherever you wish." Nathan flexed his dragon talons, watching the light dance across their surfaces. "These arms changed everything, didn't they? I can't just go back to being a maintenance tech. Not when I have this kind of power, this kind of responsibility. Power does not erase who you are, Nathan. It only amplifies it. You were a good person before the dragon's gift. You are a good person now. The form has changed, but the essence remains." Nathan thought about his parents, about his friends on the Harmony's Hope, about the life he'd had before that falling container changed everything. Then he thought about the future, about the possibilities opening up for humanity, about the chance to help shape that future for the better. Tell the Secretary General I accept, he said finally. I'll serve as part of Earth's delegation. At least for now. We can figure out the details later. Celera smiled. That expression that had become increasingly familiar and increasingly precious to Nathan. I am glad. It would have been difficult to work with a different human representative. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Work with? Are you staying on the station too? But of course, Celera replied, as if it was obvious. Valareth needs a permanent representative as well. The council voted to allow me to continue in that role. We will be colleagues, Nathan. I rather think we will make a good team. Over the next weeks, Nathan settled into his new life. He moved into permanent quarters on the station, personalized them with touches from Earth, including photos of his family and a banner from his old technical school. He began learning the rhythms of galactic politics, the endless cycle of meetings, negotiations, compromises, and occasional breakthroughs. He also continued training with Kelver, who had come to the station to ensure Nathan didn't grow complacent. The Valerian insisted on daily combat practice, weekly endurance tests, and monthly full-contact sparring matches that left Nathan bruised but improving. But the most important part of Nathan's new life was the relationships he built. He became friends with delegates from a dozen species, learning their perspectives, sharing human culture in return. He mediated disputes, offered fresh viewpoints on old problems, and gradually earned respect not for his dragon arms, but for his judgment and character. And he grew closer to Celera. Their relationship remained professional in public, but in private moments they talked for hours about everything from philosophy to music to their hopes for the future. Nathan found himself looking forward to those conversations more than anything else in his day. 6 months into his service, a crisis emerged that would test everything Nathan had learned. A border dispute between two species, the Torvin Collective and the Mazrin Union, escalated to the brink of war. Both sides had legitimate grievances, both had refused to compromise, and both were now mobilizing military forces. The council was deadlocked, unable to force a resolution. Nathan listened to both sides present their cases in the council chamber. The Torvin accused the Mazrin of encroaching on their territory, settling worlds that had been Torvin for generations. The Mazrin countered that those worlds had been abandoned by the Torvin and were free for colonization under galactic law. Neither side was entirely wrong, and neither was entirely right. After 3 days of fruitless debate, Nathan requested permission to speak. The council chair, who had come to value Nathan's input, granted it immediately. Nathan took the central platform, very aware that representatives from across the galaxy were watching to see what the human would say. He took a breath and began. Members of the council, I've listened to 3 days of arguments, and I think I understand the problem. Both the Torvin and the Mazrin are approaching this dispute as if one side must win and the other must lose. But that's not how this has to work. He turned to face the Torvin delegation. Your people abandoned those worlds generations ago because they weren't economically viable with your technology. You still consider them yours, and I understand that. Territory matters. Identity matters. But those worlds have been empty for a century. Then he turned to the Mazrin. Your people need living space, resources, room to grow. You found empty worlds and claimed them according to the law. You followed the rules. But you also knew the Torvin still had cultural attachment to those worlds, and you chose to ignore that because legally you could. Nathan moved to the center of the platform. Here's what I propose. The Mazrin keep the worlds they've already settled. In exchange, they pay the Torvin a settlement fee, acknowledging the cultural significance of those worlds and compensating for the historical claim. The Torvin use that compensation to fund exploration of new worlds, expanding in a different direction. And both species agree to a joint commission that will prevent this kind of dispute in the future by clearly defining abandoned versus temporarily unoccupied territory. The chamber erupted in discussion. Nathan returned to his seat, uncertain if his proposal would gain any traction. Celera leaned over. Bold suggestion. The Torvin will hate paying compensation, and the Mazrin will resent admitting cultural claims have value beyond legal ownership. I know, Nathan replied. But it's fair. Both sides give something, both sides get something. That's how humans solve disputes when we're at our best. The debate continued for hours. The Torvin delegation argued the compensation was insufficient. The Mazarin insisted they shouldn't pay anything for worlds they legally claimed. But gradually, with Nathan and other moderate delegates applying pressure, both sides began to soften. Concessions were made. Numbers were adjusted. Language was refined. Finally, after 2 more days of negotiation, both sides agreed to a modified version of Nathan's proposal. The vote to ratify the agreement was overwhelming. A war had been averted. After the session, the Torvin senior delegate approached Nathan. "Your proposal saved lives, human. Both Torvin and Mazarin lives. We are grateful." The Mazarin delegate arrived moments later. "You forced us to acknowledge uncomfortable truths. But you were right to do so. This solution serves all parties better than war would have." When they had left, Celera hugged Nathan tightly, an unusual public display for the usually formal princess. "You did it," she whispered. "You proved that humans belong here." Nathan returned the embrace, careful with his talents. "We did it. I couldn't have navigated the politics without your guidance." "Perhaps," Celera agreed, pulling back but keeping her hands on his arms. "But the core idea, the human approach of seeking solutions where everyone benefits, that was all you. That is what humanity brings to the galaxy." That evening, Nathan stood on an observation deck, watching stars drift past as the station followed its orbital path. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from a maintenance bay to the Galactic Council, from fully human to something new and strange. His communication device chimed. A call from Earth, from his parents. Nathan answered, and his mother's face appeared, tears already streaming down her cheeks. "We saw the broadcast," she said. "The whole thing with the Torvin and Mazarin." "Nathan, you stopped a war." "I helped negotiate a settlement," Nathan corrected. "The delegates did the real work." His father appeared next to his mother, grinning with pride. "Son, you're being too modest. You're changing the galaxy's opinion of humanity one day at a time. We're so proud we could burst." "Thanks, Mom, Dad," Nathan said, his own voice thick with emotion. "I wish you could be here to see it all." "Someday maybe we will," his mother replied. "But for now, we're happy knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be." After the call ended, Nathan remained on the observation deck, watching the stars. He heard footsteps and turned to find Celera approaching. She came to stand beside him, her own gaze turning to the vast expanse beyond the transparent wall. "Do you ever regret it?" Nathan asked. "Asking Thraxis to save me? Sometimes I wonder if I'm living up to the gift." "Every single day you prove worthy," Celera said firmly. "Not because of grand gestures or dramatic moments, but because of who you are. The dragon saw your essence, Nathan, your core nature. That has not changed despite everything that has happened." Nathan flexed his dragon talons, the scales shimmering in the starlight. "I used to fix broken things. Now I try to fix broken relationships between species. I guess some things don't change." Celera laughed softly. "A maintenance technician for the galaxy. I rather like that description." They stood together in comfortable silence, 2 beings from different worlds who had become partners in shaping the future. Nathan thought about all he had learned, all he had experienced, and all that was yet to come. His journey had started with a simple act of courage in a shuttle bay. It had led him through transformation, training, and into the heart of galactic politics. He had lost his human arms, but gained something far more valuable, a purpose that extended beyond himself, a role in building bridges between humanity and the stars. And as Nathan looked at Celera, at the woman who had insisted on saving him just as he had saved her, he realized that the dragon's gift had given him more than power. It had given him a chance to matter, to make a difference in ways he never could have imagined. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever tests the universe had in store, Nathan knew he would face them with the same courage that had defined that moment in the shuttle bay. Not because he was extraordinary, but because he was human. And sometimes that was enough. The stars shone on, infinite and eternal, and Nathan Brooks, the human with dragon claws, smiled at the possibilities they represented. His story was just beginning, and the galaxy was watching to see what humanity would do next. Years passed, and Nathan's role within the Galactic Council evolved. He became known as a skilled mediator, someone who could find common ground even in the most contentious disputes. His dragon arms became a symbol not just of his personal sacrifice, but of the potential for transformation and cooperation that existed when beings chose to act with courage and compassion. Humanity thrived under its provisional membership, demonstrating the qualities that Nathan had highlighted in his first speech. Human explorers, scientists, artists, and diplomats spread throughout the galaxy, earning respect through their actions. When the 5-year review came, the vote for full membership was nearly unanimous. Nathan stood before the council once more, this time not as a nervous newcomer, but as a respected member. He spoke about humanity's journey, the lessons learned, and the friendships forged. When the vote was tallied and Earth was granted full membership, Nathan felt profound accomplishment. But more than that, he felt grateful. Grateful for the accident that had changed his life, for Solara's faith in him, for Thraxis's gift, for every challenge and triumph that had brought him to this moment. After the ceremony, as celebrations erupted throughout the station and across Earth, Nathan found a quiet corner in the diplomatic gardens. Solara found him there, as he knew she would. They sat together beneath alien trees, watching bioluminescent flowers bloom in the twilight. "We did it," Nathan said softly. "Humanity is fully accepted." "You did it," Solara corrected. "You showed them what humans could be." Nathan shook his head. "No, we did it. Humans, Valorians, every species that chose cooperation over conflict. Every person who decided to give humanity a chance. That's what made this possible." Solara took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his talons in a gesture they had perfected over the years. "Then let us continue doing it, Nathan. There are still so many worlds to explore, so many species to meet, so many problems to solve. Our work is far from finished." Nathan squeezed her hand gently, mindful of his strength. "I wouldn't want it any other way." They sat together as the alien sunset painted the sky in colors Earth had never known. Two souls from different worlds united in purpose and in something deeper that neither had yet named aloud, but both felt profoundly. Nathan's dragon arms gleamed in the fading light, a permanent reminder of the moment that had changed everything. He had lost his human arms, saving a princess. He had gained power beyond measure. But more importantly, he had found his place in a universe far larger and more wondrous than he had ever imagined. And that, Nathan reflected, was the greatest gift of all. In the years that followed, Nathan's legend grew. Stories of the human with dragon claws spread to the furthest reaches of known space. Some were true, most were embellished, but all carried the same core message. Humanity had proven itself worthy of standing among the stars. Nathan trained others in mediation techniques, sharing the human approach to problem solving with delegates from across the galaxy. He and Solara became a formidable team, their partnership deepening into something neither had expected but both cherished. They traveled to dozens of worlds, met with countless species, and left each place a little better for their presence. Thraxis, the ancient dragon, watched from their mountain throne on Valoreth and was pleased. The gift had found a worthy home indeed. And through Nathan, the dragon's legacy of courage and sacrifice would continue, inspiring generations yet unborn. Nathan never forgot his origins. He maintained close ties with Earth, visiting his family regularly, mentoring young humans who dreamed of serving in the diplomatic corps. He funded scholarships for technical students, ensuring that the skills that had defined his early life would be passed on to others. And sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, Nathan would stand before a mirror and look at his transformed arms. He would remember the pain of the accident, the fear of waking up changed, the uncertainty of those early days. But mostly, he would remember the choice he had made in that shuttle bay, the instinctive decision to save another life at the cost of his own safety. That choice had led him here, to a life beyond anything he could have imagined. It had given him purpose, power, partnership, and a place in history. The dragon's gift was magnificent, but Nathan understood that the true gift had been the opportunity to matter, to make a difference, to help shape the future of his species among the stars. He would carry that gift forward, one day at a time, one decision at a time, one act of courage at a time. Because that was what humans did. They faced the impossible and made it possible. They encountered the unknown and made it familiar. They met challenges with determination and hope. Nathan Brooks had lost both arms, saving an alien princess. He had woken with dragon claws instead. But in losing and gaining, he had discovered something far more valuable. Proof that humanity belonged among the stars, that courage transcended species, and that sometimes the right person in the right place at the right time could change the galaxy forever. His story would be told for generations, a testament to the power of selfless action and the potential that existed when beings chose to help rather than hide, to risk rather than retreat, to build bridges rather than walls. And in the end, that was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not advanced technology or military might, but the simple, profound willingness to do what was right, even when it was hard, even when it cost everything. Nathan smiled at his reflection, his dragon talons gleaming with inner light. Then he turned away from the mirror and headed back to his quarters, where Celera would be waiting, where new challenges would be rising, where the future was being written one moment at a time. He had work to do. The galaxy was counting on him. And Nathan Brooks, maintenance technician turned diplomat, human turned legend, would not let them down. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.